Hello and welcome to a Ghostbusters episode of Nerdthusiast Trailer Reacts.
Yeah.
Is that what we're calling this?
Yeah, it's a long name for it for sure. I would have just said it's Ghostbusters Trailer Reacts from Nerdthusiast.
All going in the YouTube description, or name. It's going to be the title. I'm Richard Eiley. I'm here with Matthew Morosi. And we have a guest today, right?
We do. We have at Eat a Hoagie. We're going to refer to him as Hoagie or Mr. Hoagie throughout the podcast, so we hope you enjoy.
Absolutely. Hoagie, how's it going?
Good, man. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Big super fan, right? Of Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like the guy that, you know, people, when they think of Ghostbuster stuff, they always text me like, yo, I saw this or whatever. I'm like that guy. I'm just a huge, super nerdy fan, so.
I love it. I love
That's
it.
me.
And what just happened recently, Hoagie, that has us here today? What's got you hyped?
So the Ghostbusters 3, the official third movie in the franchise. I'll talk about the other one a little bit as well, but this is the actual third movie has come out. The trailer has come out for the movie. So let me just say, I felt like a kid on Christmas morning Monday when I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
I couldn't even sleep a little bit. Yeah. So I was very excited. So that came out. We're going to talk about that today a little bit. So I'm excited.
Let's start out beyond that first, or prior to that. Let's go around each of us and just tell us your history on Ghostbusters, so the audience has an idea of, you know, our backgrounds with it. So why don't you go ahead and start, Hoagie?
All right. So I have just been a super fan. It's always been my favorite movie growing up. Like, there's pictures of me like having Ghostbuster birthdays in the 80s. Like, I was just that kid. I think so. I was like only a year old when the first movie came out in 1984. But I think what really got me into it was the cartoon show, which came out a couple years later, and all the toys from Kenner.
Nice.
So that came out in the mid 80s, and I think that's what really got me into Ghostbusters originally, was the cartoon show.
I forgot about that cartoon show.
I didn't.
Oh man, yeah.
It's awesome.
That was great.
I mean, that's the,
go ahead.
No, I would say that's like a whole nother segment, man. That's like, dude, it's creepy. Like, I've rewatched them with my kids, and they're like creepy. Like, watching them now, I'm like, wow. Like,
were they good?
They're good, but like they're just scarier than they should be.
Oh, really?
Like, when you think about, yeah,
Like a harsher
there's some
Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like a more hardcore Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
It's definitely, there's some characters in there. I'm like, this is like really scary. This is like nightmare fuel for like little kids.
That's freaking awesome.
That's fabulous.
So yeah, that's what got me into it. So what level are you guys on? Like, have you seen them? Have you not seen the movies?
So I was a fan when I was a kid. I haven't seen them in a really long time. It's honestly been probably, I'd say maybe a few decades. I don't know. It's been a long time. But I just went back and rewatched them over the past few days. So I just rewatched 1 and 2. I've not seen the cartoon, so I'm not familiar with that. But 1 and 2 are fresh in my mind. The other movie they put out, I think the 2016 one, I did not see it. I wasn't interested in it at all. Nothing against female actors or anything. You know, people want to get upset about that. It didn't look like a good movie to me, so I had no interest in seeing it.
Yeah,
I'll
touch on that too. Why that's not related to these other ones as well. I'll touch on that.
Perfect.
For sure.
What about you, Richard?
Very little. I've seen bits and pieces of like Ghostbusters throughout the years.
Really?
I think I've seen the first one like all the way through. But
it was like a long time ago.
But it was ages ago. I don't really recall it too much. I love Bill Murray. I love Rick Moranis. I love a lot of the actors in these movies. But for whatever reason, I just never got Ghostbusters. I never really like. I like the imagery. I like it's cool. To me it represents the 80s in a big way.
Yeah.
And that I like. But I don't know if I've just never given them enough time or enough credit. But I think I just need to spend more time with it to really understand what clicks with, you know, pop culture and everybody when it comes to Ghostbusters.
Okay,
but very little. I barely remember the second one.
Were you like really young when you first seen them, or were you older when you seen them? I'm just curious because for me, like watching one as an adult, I could definitely see why I liked it as a kid, and why if you were an adult and you watched them, it might be a little bit harder to get into when you're an adult.
I think I've watched them when I was like younger. But I was so young that I didn't really get what was going on. I didn't really like get the movies.
Maybe you were too young?
I think I was too young.
Okay.
And then I watched them when I was like in my teens, and again when I was like, you know, late teens. And I just didn't watch them in the right format. I usually caught them on TV halfway through the movie, so I just never really had like the right setting I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So we got the full spectrum.
100%.
Here,
Yeah.
Full spectrum of. So that's good because I want to hear some of your perspective because I know you guys watch the trailer. So I'd like to hear your perspective. Definitely, for sure.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask Hoagie, why do you love Ghostbusters?
I think it's like, so I got into the cartoon and then I've always been into like horror, but this is more like, and I love comedy. So it's like kind of like a good mix. It's like that dry humor comedy mixed with like not too scary horror. And it just, it just makes it a fun combination of things,
That
so
campy,
I don't know.
goofy
It just,
horror.
yeah, it just, I don't know. It just connected with me for some reason. I really don't know why, but it really did. So.
Do you like the first movie better or the second movie better?
Definitely number one, 1984 release. Definitely.
That's the right answer.
It's just, I've seen the 1984 one. I'm not kidding. At least 100+ times.
Holy crap!
I've watched it.
Hell yes, dude. Yeah, that's awesome.
And so, and
Love that.
I also got a chance. I also got a chance to watch it twice in theaters. I watched it. They did a special release in theaters for the 30-year anniversary 5 years ago, and then this past year they did a 35th anniversary re-release with some extra scenes in the beginning.
Oh, wow.
So I
that's
actually
awesome.
got to see it twice. I got to see it twice in theaters. So I was actually that was pretty cool too.
Is Ghostbusters
So.
like a because I'm thinking like fandoms and different fandoms and how they react with like, changes to their movies and stuff, and you're saying they added stuff to like this new release of Ghostbusters? Like, are the Ghostbusters fans very protective?
It wasn't like added. It was just like extra deleted scenes, and they had like a little thing in beforehand of like a mini
cool.
documentary, and they were like showing you
Very
some of the
cool.
extra scenes and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, very
so
good.
it wasn't like they messed with the original film or anything like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
But generally, are like Ghostbusters fans protective rather?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And so, can I go into like the background of how we got here?
Yeah.
Like how we got to Ghostbusters 3?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so here's the thing, right? Ghostbusters, you can quote me on this or don't quote me, I don't care, but if you look into it, I'm pretty sure, if not number one, number two, they are the biggest franchise from the 1980s. They had two
shit.
mega
Really?
blockbusters released, and when you put in the toys, all the gear, all the stuff like that, because
The toys
you
were
had some
awesome, by the way. Those
I do
toys
remember
were
those toys.
freaking
Yeah,
really cool.
I do remember those toys.
Because, there's some other big franchises like Back to the Future franchise from the 80s, but Back to the Future didn't have a major cartoon. It didn't
Yeah.
have all the T-shirts and all the gear. So, like,
Video
when you
games.
add in video games and all the extras. So when you add in all that extra stuff, I'm pretty sure Ghostbusters was the biggest franchise in the 1980s. So if you're, like, working for corporate America, Sony, or whoever, your Columbia Pictures, whatever, you go, wow, we have literally this like gold mine in our back pocket, right? Let's make Ghostbusters 3. Let's do it, right?
Yeah.
So what happens? So this is what happens. A little movie called Groundhog Day happens. This isn't official, but this is from the rumor mill that I've heard in background stories and things. Bill Murray is in Groundhog Day. Have you guys seen Groundhog Day?
Love Groundhog Day.
I've
One of
never
my
watched it
favorite
all the
movies
way
ever,
through,
yeah.
but I watched a good chunk of it. It was pretty fucking funny.
Big fan of that film.
So Bill Murray is obviously the star of that. Hal Ramis, I believe, is the director, or he's a executive producer on that film. They have a major clashing. Something happens during that filming, and after that, they are no longer friends.
Oh, wow.
So Hal Ramis obviously plays Egon. Bill Murray plays Peter Venkman. They have a big falling out in the 90s, and everyone's trying to get a Ghostbusters 3 made. These two are butting heads. Bill Murray won't sign on. He won't make deals. And so it becomes a very frustrating time for Ghostbusters fans because you have this great product, and it's like, you know what? We're just going to throw it in the back on the back shelf and just let it sit there.
Well, that's...
And so...
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, it's just fascinating because it feels like Ghostbusters was this huge lightning in a bottle thing from the 80s, and then it just kind of,
Yes.
like, from then to now, like, there was nothing. Where you look at Star Wars, and that was a constant thing since it came out in the 70s, and it just sounds like Ghostbusters sort of faded away.
Yeah, and so this falling out really had a down swing on the whole Ghostbusters movement. Wow. And so then what happened in real life is Hal Ramis, he died in real life, Egon, a few years back. And so the word that has been put out there was that Bill Murray did reunite with Hal Ramis before his death. They, put their stuff aside and just kind of put the past in the past and, you know, reflected on the good times and they you know, they made up or whatever. And I think after that, Bill Murray was kind of like, okay, it's time to do something. So then what happens is 2016 happens, and so they try to reboot this franchise. They try to make this female reboot. And I'll tell you the truth, I was a huge fan of it. I was like, this is going to be great. This is going to be awesome.
Cool.
The actresses they picked were great, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Kate McKinnon is hilarious.
All-star cast, for sure.
So it was like, okay, you know, I saw Bridesmaid. A lot of them were in Bridesmaid. I thought Bridesmaids was hilarious. I'm like, dude, this is going to be legit. And then what happened was, it was a forced product. It was, they tried to reboot it. They tried to make it like the original, but you know, it's very hard to do. They should have made it like a franchise. Like these were new females joining the team. I think that would have felt less forced. And what happened was you just had a bad product come out, and it just was not a good film. And I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan. I did see it, but it just was not good. And the studio lost somewhere around $70 million on this deal.
Ooh,
they put in between marketing and recording and filming and releases, they put in about $300 million into that reboot, and they only retained about $230 million over everything, and they lost $70 million on that deal. And so Ghostbuster fans are obviously crushed. We're like, this is the end. This is it. And Ivan Reitman, he is the one that directed the first two films. His son, Jason Reitman, he's in a scene in Ghostbusters 2. And Rosie, you might remember this because you just watched it. The director's son is in Ghostbusters 2. It's a scene when they go to the Christmas birthday party scene. And they show up, and the one kid goes up to him, and he's like, "You guys are full of shit," my dad said.
That's him? Oh, that's awesome. I know exactly what you're talking about. Look at this little punk-ass kid.
Yeah. Cool. So that's Jason Reitman, who now has directed the Ghostbusters 3. Wow. So Jason Reitman approaches Sony and the studio and says, "Listen, I want to write a real, legit new Ghostbusters. We can't let this project die. It's worth too much." He's like, I can do it for a lot cheaper. I can make a good product. Let's go with it. So from what the numbers that I've seen, he's put it somewhere between $30 to $50 million range, and that's about obviously 1/6 of the total they spent on the 2016 version. So I think right now, I mean they're gonna hit that number in the first 2 weekends, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a horror movie budget. That's something you would get for like Get Out or like one of these smaller budget movies. That's awesome.
Yeah, so Jason Reitman has now taken on in his father's footsteps. So now you have the family there. You know, he's connected obviously to Ivan, his father, and I think a lot of information is probably going back and forth. And we're gonna get an authentic product. You know what I mean? It just feels more authentic. It's not a forced product. It's not trying to reboot and shove something down our throat. This is an authentic. And so Ghostbusters, it's called Afterlife, and it is a direct sequel to the first two movies. It is connected to both the first two movies, from what I understand.
Yeah, so, same universe.
Let me ask you a question here, since we're at that point now. If you guys remember, there was a video game that came out a few years back. I don't remember the exact year. They actually recently remastered the video game, and that was supposed to be the official sequel to Ghostbusters 2. They didn't title it Ghostbusters 3. It was just called Ghostbusters the video game. So do you know if that, I guess they've retconned that now, so that is no longer canon?
Yeah, so what happened was Dan Aykroyd wrote that film, and it was going to be called Ghostbusters Hellbent, I think was the working title. And they couldn't get it together. Bill Murray would not sign on. They were having issues getting everyone to come on board. And that's what, you're right, it ended up being the video game. Now, there is one scene in the trailer where there's a scene where it looks like a bunch of fire, could possibly be hell. We don't know what it is in the actual thing. And some people are saying that might be a little bit of a nod to his script, the Hellbent script. So that's like a little Easter egg, but we're not really sure if it's an Easter egg.
It'd be cool if they canonized it within the movie. They just like reference that game. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah. So I think that, and there's also another thing in there too that reference to the game, because in the game apparently there's like a Doritos like machine where you can buy snacks or something, and there's a shot of Doritos. So I guess Doritos is like an official sponsor of like Ghostbusters or something. I don't know what that's all about, but that was in there as well.
So did Dan Aykroyd, who plays Ray Stantz, did he write the script also? Who wrote the script?
So from what I understand, Jason Reitman's the one that wrote it,
Okay.
but Aykroyd and played a huge part in it as well.
Like gave some advice or like his blessings on like the way the script was turned out.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd from day one of the Ghostbusters. He is the brains. He is the pusher. He is the one that has got this project going from day one of 1983 or when they ever started writing it.
But this is his
Dan
baby,
Aykroyd,
right? Like this is his
yeah,
thing.
This is Dan Aykroyd's thing all the way, and he's been trying to get 3 off the ground for a long time, and finally they were able to make it happen, and I think he's really psyched about it. And speaking of that, the original cast is all signed on for this film.
Heard about that.
They're all coming back. The only one that is probably not coming back, or there's no confirmation, is obviously Egon, because he's passed away. But Rick Moranis, unfortunately, probably will not sign on.
What has happened to Rick Moranis is the question that I want to know most
Hoagie,
about
do you know?
anything.
Do you know where Rick Moranis is?
Okay, so from what I understand, this is what happened. So Rick Moranis, if you look up Rick Moranis, he, again, is one of the biggest 80s stars there
He
was.
did a ton of films. A ton of films.
Yeah. And so even into the 90s with all the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Little Giants. And
Little Giants was great. I forgot about that.
Yeah, listen, Google Rick Moranis, you're going to be like, holy crap, I forgot about all these great movies.
Insane.
And Rick Moranis made Ghostbusters 1 and 2, man. He was like that little like focal point in both those films that were hilarious. But so apparently, what I understand, I guess his wife died of cancer, and he decided to leave the film industry to raise his kids. He left it completely. But that was, in the 90s and early 2000s, and his kids are older now, but he just has decided, I guess, that he has left the movie life behind. And once in a while, I see his name pop up, like he does some like sporadic charity thing, like where he'll show up, but it's very, very few and far beyond, and I don't think that he probably will not return, unfortunately. And I know
That
a lot
sucks.
of us are really but everyone else is back. All the original 3 Ghostbusters.
Sigourney
Weaver.
She's back?
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
hell
back.
yeah.
She's fucking awesome.
Love it.
Annie Potts, who played Rick Moranis' girlfriend in the second one, and who was also the receptionist in the first one as well. She's signed on, so she's back. Janine, yes. So they are all back. And then on top of that, Paul Rudd, obviously of Ant-Man, he is signed on.
That's fantastic.
And then Will Wolford of Stranger Things is one of the main characters. And so I don't know if that's good or bad, because a lot of the reviews I'm seeing, people are like calling this like the Stranger Things edition movie or whatever. But here's the reality of it. Are you guys Stranger Things fans?
I love
Huge,
Stranger
hugely.
Things.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a Stranger Things fan too, and obviously you guys remember the scene where they're all dressed up as Ghostbusters for Halloween.
Yeah, in season 2.
Yeah, and so a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is like a ripoff of Stranger Things," but realistically, you wouldn't have Stranger Things if it was for like movies like Ghostbusters or movies like Monster Squad.
It steals from that DNA
like,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, so people are saying it, but it's kind of actually the reverse. They're just thinking locally of recent, trends of what has been happening. But realistically, Stranger Things wouldn't exist without the Ghostbuster and Monster Squad and all those good films from the 80s and things. So, but yeah, so Finn Wolford's a main star in this. And to jump a little bit into it, the third film is focusing on what appears to be Egon's death. And this is his grandchildren and granddaughter, from what I understand, have inherited a property out in the Midwest that belonged to Egon.
Yeah.
That's what we're understanding at this point.
I mean, should we talk about this trailer proper and get into that? Like, just start, going off like what we saw in there and all that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what did you? I want to see your perspective, because I obviously watched it like 40 times already. So I would like to hear, like, Richard, like, what was your? Because this is the first time you kind of like really dove in a little bit. So what did you see when you watched it?
So right off the bat, it just looked really well made. The imagery and cinematography, I think, stood out. It looked great. Very much a Stranger Things vibe is what I got from it, which I don't think is a bad thing personally, especially since, like, I don't know, you were mentioning the fact that people were talking about what was it? I forgot what I was going to say.
Finn Wolford or Paul Rudd.
Yeah, just like and like people responding saying, "Oh, it's like a Stranger Things thing," and like
it's a rip off of Stranger Things.
It's a rip off or whatever. But like it seems like the fact that everyone got so excited for Stranger Things and seeing this imagery of them in like those Ghostbusters costumes, like that really helped kind of get people excited for Ghostbusters or thinking about it again. So like in a way, they kind of helped each other out. And I wonder after that failure of the female Ghostbusters, if Stranger Things kind of bringing it to light again didn't help maybe get this third one on the rails again.
It might have. That's a good point.
So I do think about that. But in terms of like the trailer itself, it looks cool. Like it has the imagery that I would want to see. I'm super surprised that like Bill Murray or any of the original cast are not in the trailer at all. Especially,
I think that's cool. I think that's the right move because they're probably going to have a smaller part in the movie. They're probably they're just going to be like, I'm not saying a cameo, but they're not going to be in the whole film.
Yeah,
where the kids are clearly the stars.
And when you like looking at Star Wars Force Awakens, when it's supposed to be about this new generation and stuff, I think it's always good to focus on that new generation explicitly. And that seems to be what they're doing with this trailer. And as someone who has never really been huge on Ghostbusters, like it helps me say like, oh, this might be for me. This is a good jumping in point. And then hearing you, Sakali, talk about like just the level of legacy that's involved in this movie, the passionate people, the original people who like helped make it, the creators like coming in to make this movie, working so hard to make it happen. It's pretty cool. It's exciting to hear. Like I'm much more sold on it than I thought I would be before recording this.
Yeah. What did you think, Matt?
I thought very similar things. I thought it was, excellent looking. I think it seems to have more of like a serious vibe. There might have been some like light comedy in there, and that's my only concern.
Okay.
And this is why I'm concerned is because Ghostbusters, if you watch 1 and 2, when I was a kid, it's funny because Sakali's son actually mentioned that he loved Ghostbusters 2, and that was always my favorite when I was a kid.
Oh, nice.
I loved Ghostbusters 2, but going back and watching it as an adult, Ghostbusters 1 is so much better. And it's because of the humor they have. It's funny for adults. It's funny for kids because they have like goofy shit in there, and then it has jokes that'll go right over a kid's head. That wasn't in Ghostbusters 2. Ghostbusters 2 was just a goofy movie for kids.
Oh, really?
It was great.
Oh, okay.
But it didn't have that
same
level
like
of comedy.
adult, yeah.
It leaned into just being a kid's movie.
It did, and I didn't see any comedy really in the trailer for adults. So I'm hoping they can get that right, but I don't know if you can do that if Bill Murray's not the main character, because most of that comedy came directly from Bill Murray.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Paul Rudd does, right? Like that's he fulfills that role, hopefully.
But even in the trailer, Paul Rudd looks like very serious
in
his roles. Yeah, so that's one of my concerns too. Was I'm obviously a super fan, so I love everything. But at the same time, I've stepped back and thought about it a little bit as well. And the one thing that Matt, you touched on it perfectly, was that I'm worried that it's too serious and there's not enough comedy in there. And I'm hoping maybe Paul Rudd does step up a little bit and has some comedic parts in there. But I mean, that's for time to tell. Now, the issue I think it's kind of maybe a marketing idea right now. I think they want to put this out first. And then once it gets closer, because it's not coming out to the summertime, I think once it comes closer, you'll start seeing trailers with clips of the old Ghostbusters to get some more people to buy in right away. Because right now, just getting the super fans involved, start talking about it, doing things like this, and it helps promote that. And then I think once it gets closer, you'll get all that other stuff added in there to really draw more people in.
You got to pace yourself with like those reveals.
And that's what I think. That's what I think's happening because, obviously that's a Venkman and all those original guys, Winston and all. That's a big part of it. So, I had wrote down some notes you guys saw here. I did point out a couple of Easter eggs. Do you want me to talk about them?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, let's go through them. We'll try to post these up too, so you guys can see what we're talking about.
Hopefully we'll have them
on
overlaid on the video, and you guys can see them.
Okay, so here's the biggest one, and this is one that blows by a lot of people's heads. It's going to go right over their heads, and you probably would not have noticed it. And this is going to be a central storyline in the film. Okay, so there's a part where they're walking, the kids are walking, and you see it says Shandor Mining Company or something along those lines. They're walking into like an old mine shaft area. Shandor is the name that sticks out. That's the Easter egg. That's the main story here. Because if you go back to Ghostbusters 1, do you remember the scene when they're in the jail and they're looking over the plans of the whole Spook Central where Dana Barrett lives, and they're talking about how crazy of a design it was? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was designed by an architect who like basically wanted to bring the end of the world.
Yeah, so that was Ivo Shandor. He was the architect.
Shit.
Oh, I remember that name. I remember Ivo.
Yeah, and he was also in the video game as well. And so Ivo Shandor, that you now have Shandor Mining Company. So the idea is that he must have been maybe mining for this special materials or metals that they use
To make the building?
Yes. And so somehow Egon moves out here. So he either discovers this area or finds out this is going on and he investigates or what the storyline is. Something with Shandor is going to be a big plot in this film.
Dude,
that's going to be...
That's fucking rad.
That's cool.
Yeah. So right away, the hardcore fan knows that this is directly linked to the first film altogether. Now, a couple other things I saw that I sent a picture of you guys to is the from the first movie as well, the stacking of the books. So there's a scene where they're in the house, and in the background, you'll see a stack of books. That's from the first movie.
Yeah.
And even in the first opening scenes when they're going through the library and there's all those books stacked, and they make a joke about those stacking of the books in symmetrical fashion. So that's like an inside joke there that's in there.
Is that does that represent anything? The stacking of books in like earlier movies, or it's just a thing that happens? Motif.
Just an Easter
Cool.
egg to the tie into the
throwback.
first film.
That's cool.
The big one that me and my son, he's 5 years old, and I actually posted a video online of me and him debating about it.
I think I saw that.
We're not.
That's awesome.
He swears it is. I'm not sure it is. We're questioning if Slimer returns to this film. He was in the first two films. He was a big plot in the all the cartoons. Slimer is obviously one of the most famous ghosts and characters. There's a scene where you're flying through it and you see a ghost. It's like a blob, and it shoots out the side as they're going and ripping through the town in the trailer. And it's hard to tell because it looks a little more bluish and grayish. It doesn't look so much green. My son swears it's Slimer. I'm not really sold on it yet, but it's kind of
Look at them
back and
cheeks,
forth there.
Hoagie. It's there. I
Yeah.
see it in the cheeks.
It's definitely Slimer.
Ah.
That's gotta be
We think
Slimer.
When you get old
Okay.
as a slime, you start to lose your green. That's what happens.
That could be true. That could be true. That could be something like that. He's just growing old, an old Slimer. Another thing, I don't know if I sent you this video, a clip of this, but if not, we just talk about it. The Return of the Devil Dog. So there's a real quick scene where Paul Rudd is in a car. You see the Devil Dog from the first movie. You see his leg just smash the front of the car in the trailer, and the Devil Dogs are minions of Gozer from the first film. So if the Devil Dogs are here, that means there could be a return of Gozer as well. The
That'd be
Destructor.
crazy.
So who we could have another Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. We could have some kind of crazy thing happening. I don't know, but the Devil Dogs are back, which means Gozer is coming back as well in another form or something along those lines.
Okay, so some callbacks to older villains and stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, they were basically
Yeah.
like there was like a god in the first movie, or demigod, and it
demigod,
had like
yeah.
two. Were they like protectors of him? I guess is that what you
Yeah,
would call them?
they were
And
his
these,
minions.
Okay.
The Keymaster and the Gatekeeper.
Yes.
and once, so that's one of the adult jokes that I didn't get as a little kid until I was older. I was like, oh, I get it now. So you had a Keymaster. So the minions were sent first to the universe or wherever they were going, and the Keymaster would hook up with the Gatekeeper, and when they merged, the Keymaster, right, that would unlock the door for Gozer to come into the universe.
Nice.
It's kind of like a birth of a child kind of thing,
feel
you know.
you.
Hey, quick timeout break here. I gotta take the
Perfect.
kids out. Can
No
we wait
worries.
2
Yeah,
minutes?
go
we'll do a
for it.
little fade out.
All
No
right.
worries. All right, where were we?
All right. We were talking about the return of Gozer and the minions and them basically having sex with each other.
Cool. That was a good combo. I was enjoying that.
As your kid came
So,
up, how interesting.
Yeah, so there's definitely gonna be some kind of return of Gozer or something along those lines happening. The couple other things that happened. One, there's definitely you see Spengler's old uniform in the one scene. You also see a scene where there's like some jars and containers. Now, like the average fan is just gonna say that looks like some kind of scientist laboratory.
Yeah.
But that's actually a direct nod to the first movie as well, because in the first movie,
Spore samples, right?
yes. So Egon says that his hobbies include collecting molds, spores, and fungus, and so that's
okay.
obviously what we're seeing there. Yeah.
Just
And
maybe one
then,
of his rooms or something in the apartment.
Yes. So that happens. Now the other thing that I haven't really seen a lot of people talking about this, and I kind of saw this on here, and I'm still not sure why or what it's all about. there's like so when it says this part of the trailer where it says written by and directed by Jason Reitman, it looks like it's in some kind of factory, or it looks like it's in some kind of warehouse or something with a lot of pipes and things.
Yeah.
And so in the upper right hand corner, if you're looking at it, or if it's facing you the left hand, there's a little Ghostbusters sticker. Do you see that? It's kind of, I tried to enlarge it a little bit. It's kind of hard to see. It's like if you look, I don't know if you can see it. Do you see the picture with where it says Reitman? Like it's cut off, half his name is cut off.
We're looking at. I see like a red pipe with a wheel on it, and then one behind it.
So it looks like the Ghostbuster sticker is right there. Do you see that? It's kind of like, and it's kind of hard to see.
Here. It's right here, right above my finger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see,
so
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, you can barely make it out, but it's there.
Yeah.
Subtle.
So that's how you know I'm a total dweeb, because I was looking
You were able to
for
pick that.
everything.
Yeah, how did you pick that out? Just frame by frame, 0.25
Out of
times.
all the Easter eggs you showed me, I went through that one like 3 times. Like I don't know what the fuck he's looking at.
You're like, what is this?
No
It's
idea what he
pipes. It's
sees on
pipes,
this.
Hoagie. I don't know what to do.
So I don't know if this was some kind of storage facility for the ghosts that Egon had running or whatnot. This was an official Ghostbuster facility or what we're about to look at there. So it looks pretty intense, but obviously that sticker means that it has something to do with maybe one of their past facilities. So
Cool.
that's most of the Easter eggs and stuff like that, and most of it that I've seen through it so far. Now there is one extra scene that was not in the American version.
Okay.
There's an international trailer that got released in Germany.
Love this.
And there's an extra bonus scene in there where they have these new goggles. So the goggles from the first and second scene, these new goggles actually take a picture of whatever they're looking at, and he pulls out a Polaroid out of the goggles and shakes it off. So there is one extra bonus scene in the
little extra
German.
device.
Yeah, and so one other weird thing too is it actually has a different name overseas. So our version is called Ghostbusters Afterlife. In Germany, it's called Ghostbusters Legacy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know, and it's not like a German name. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's called Legacy. It's called Ghostbusters Legacy. So I don't know what that's all about. Why they have two different names for the movie.
I mean, Legacy makes almost more sense to me in terms of like a name with like, you know, his grandchildren taking up like the suits and everything and like that passing the torch almost. Like I totally get that name.
Yeah, so I don't know what that's all about, but there's two
Interesting.
different names for the movie right now. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that's all I got for like the Easter egg stuff that I found and like kind of went through. And anything else you guys saw or that you noticed or anything like that you had maybe you didn't understand what the hell was going on or something like that?
I think that the trailer does a really good job for me as someone who doesn't really watch Ghostbusters or know about it, like just getting me in and like explaining what the world was. And I know just enough to pick up like what they're saying. Like, oh, yeah, you know, Egon is her grandfather or whatever. Like I got it. She former Ghostbuster. So like I'm getting enough from it. But I guess I wanted to ask you, Hoagie, like, what do you think? Are you excited? How are you feeling right now? Because it feels like the movie that you should have gotten.
Yeah, I am excited, and I'm hoping that it's not too late. You know, like I'm hoping that it still has that, like you said, Bill Murray comedy in it. It's still got that feel to it a little bit. You know, I hope it's just not another forced Ghostbusters like we got in 2016. Like I hope this is legit, and I hope it spawns more films as in reality. I hope it brings about a expanded Ghostbusters universe, because I mean there's a whole Ghostbuster comic series, and in the comic series they merge with like Transformers and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Crazy.
So I mean there's a ton of stuff that this whole franchise could go in whatever direction. So I'm hoping that's a good possibility that this really comes through and connects with the fans, and they make some profit off of it, because then, you know, like I said, there's a lot of potential here to go further.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. And they're setting it up. They're doing new Ghostbusters, and they're using the right names. You know, Wolfgang Finn. What's his name?
Finn Wolfhard.
Finn Wolfhard. Like, yeah, very very
Yeah.
popular, like up and coming child actor right now. So like, I'm sure he can like carry this on his back going forward if he needed to.
It was a good trailer. It was a very good trailer. They just need to win me over with the comedy.
Yeah.
With like a more somber Ghostbusters, though, would it be the worst thing, considering like Harold Ramis is dead and so is his character? Like when you watch Star Wars Force Awakens, like that movie was very somber in its own way because 40 years has passed. All of these characters had separated from each other. Like everyone had a hard life in the 40 years from Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens. Like if this did a similar thing, would you guys is there a universe where you'd be okay with it'll have humor there, but it'll be overall more somber Ghostbusters, considering the content, what has happened with these people, like how long it took to get this going?
I think so, but like I said, it's got to connect with the new people because the original fans we're old now. I mean, you got to get the younger fans into it, and if they're not going to be into it, then this will be the death of it. So it needs a little bit of comedy. It needs a little bit to connect with it, and you got to realize too with like some of the Star Wars stuff, besides the first 3 films, and there was obviously a gap after that. I mean, you're only talking smaller gaps of time frames between the last 6 films.
That's very fair.
It's easier to connect there because even if it was like 5-6 years ago from the one to the other, it was still like, okay, it's still relevant. I still remember that.
Yeah.
I was in high school when it came out, and so they just have to connect with the younger fans, and I hope that that's something they can do. And I think so. I have a feeling they're going to really be pushing like the toy line and maybe hopefully a new cartoon as well when this comes out as well, because that will be this part 2 of this play, I think, by the Ghostbusters. Especially if the film does good, I think there's going to be a good possibility of a new cartoon coming out.
That'd be cool too. Yeah. Fingers crossed, man. I hope you get that. Especially since your kid's such a big fan too. Like it'd be cool for you guys to just really
my
enjoy,
kids love it.
It getting that Star Wars treatment of just movies and shows and all these other things.
Well, I'm definitely going to go see it for sure. I don't know if you're planning on going to
I'll
see
watch
it, but
it.
hopefully we'll be able to
I'd be down.
we can meet back after the movie and we'll recap the movie.
A spoiler cast with all 3 of us would be awesome. I'd be down.
Yes. July 10th, 2020 is when it's set to release. Obviously, it's a blockbuster, summer blockbuster. They're expecting big returns on it already. I haven't seen anything yet coming up to compete against them on July 10th, so we'll see if anyone throws their name in the hat or whatever, the ring, to see if they're going to compete against them that weekend. But right now, it looks like they have that weekend locked from what I've seen.
That's good.
Least. Yeah, so I put a couple things here in background if anyone wants to look a little further or like dig a little deeper into the Ghostbusters world. So one, there's a great documentary called Ghost Heads. It was on Netflix. I think it's off Netflix right now, but you can find it on like Amazon or Google Play or whatever. It's called Ghost Heads. It's a really good documentary.
I think that's the one Greg Miller might be in.
Okay.
It's more about like It's more about super fans.
Okay.
It's a documentary about fans, geeks like myself that have toys and kids are into it and we dress up and like all that.
That's awesome.
But right now there's actually a small documentary on Netflix called The Movies That Made Us. Have you seen this yet?
I haven't. I have it in my queue, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of those yet.
Yeah, so they're really good. They spawned off of the series The Toys That Made Us, if you guys have seen them yet. They came out, and one of them is about Ghostbusters, about 45 minutes long, and they just kind of break down the film. And there's a lot of cool stuff in there that I didn't even know as a super fan. And so that was a really cool documentary that they brought down. And they put a hint in there about toys. So I think one of the future episodes on The Toys That Made Us on Netflix, the next season that comes out, might have a Ghostbusters toy documentary in there. So I'm psyched about that. I'm crossing my fingers for that as well.
Definitely.
So...
Well, that's awesome. Hoagie, do you have anything? Matt, do you have anything else you guys want to talk about in regards to this specifically?
No, I just want to thank Ida Hoagie for coming on.
Yeah, no.
Ida Hoagie, can you tell us about what you do and your channel and all that, please?
Yeah, so I have a stream on Twitch. I do usually poker and casino games and stuff. You can check me out at twitch.tv/PlayUSA or twitch.tv/Ida Hoagie. I'm also on Twitter as Ida Hoagie. I'm sure you guys can throw like a link in the bio or something.
I'll put a little lower third in the video too.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm more in the casino gambling world, but I am definitely a nerd. I mean,
you do video game trivia night. I've been there a few times for that.
Yeah. So I do like a weekly trivia night, like last night, and we do all kinds of stuff. Like last night we did a Friends TV trivia night. Like we do all kinds of nerdy, geeky stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
But but Ghostbusters, obviously, when I heard that this trailer came out, I was like, this is gonna be cool. So yeah, you know what? Let's let's plan on when the film comes out. Let's meet up, man.
Super
and,
down.
Do a review.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that for sure.
That'd be cool. Yeah, and if we can think of anything else where we can like connect with you, we'd love to do it, man. It was great having you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you so much
Cool,
for coming
man.
on. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, no. Any chance I get to talk to someone with Ghostbusters? Because here's what I've learned. Like, you go out on a date and you start talking about these things like poker or Ghostbusters. They're like, yeah.
Stop.
So it's nice to talk to some people that actually want to listen.
We're glad to be your outlet.
For sure.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man, and thank you guys. Shout out to 8-Bit Universe for this awesome track, this Ghostbusters track.
You can find them on YouTube if you just search for 8-Bit Universe on there. They have a whole bunch of video game themed songs that they tweaked a bit.
Some really cool stuff.
It's awesome
Thank you.
songs. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
We do. I love my Power Glove. It's so bad.
What do you want to be? Pick a lane, bitch.